Hello and welcome to my little bookish corner of the internet. My name's Harriet. Today I'm going to be talking through the books that I read in the month of July. Now I wasn't actually expecting to read many books this month. I thought that I wouldn't have the time to do it, but I ended up reading 8, which is really good for me and I'm really proud of myself. And it's so nice to actually be able to kind of sit down and take the time to read that many books. It's just felt like a really great reading month for me. So I'm going to talk through what I read. Now to start with, when I left you in my July TBR video, I said that I wanted to continue on with Sapiens. I haven't read much more of this, to be honest with you. I think I've read like 20-30 pages. Not a lot, but I am still enjoying it and I'm going to continue to read this as the year goes on. And then I did also finish The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin. I have now got a little review of this and it is spoiler free, so I'll leave it down below so you can check that out. But I loved this. I thought it was wonderful. The writing is great. Basically, it's following one person that lives on a communist moon and they go down to a capitalist planet, and basically following them and their scientific discoveries and what they want to share with that community. So yeah, definitely check out my review for this and see if you want to read it, because I definitely recommend it. And then we get onto a book that you've probably never seen or heard of before. Basically, I got sent this to give the author a review. It wasn't expected of me to write like a public review or anything like that. It was more just me reading it and letting them know what I thought of it. Now, it has been published. I believe it's published through Amazon, but it is called George Twitchett, Rise of the Vardar by G.A. Eastick. And this is like a children's Nordic fantasy following 2 young children called George and Anna, and what happens to them when they meet some mystical characters, and basically there are these dark forces at work. Now, personally, I cannot recommend this book, and that's because I don't think that it's ready for publication. So there were quite a few kind of spelling and grammar mistakes, which is good because I was able to then feed that back to the author, and they have said that they are going to look into it and sort it out, maybe get like a professional to edit it for them. But that is a shame because I do think the story has a lot of potential. It's very whimsical. I think it is perfect for kids. There's some silly humour in there and it's very adventurous and fun. And it does focus in on friendships a lot as well, which is great. But yeah, I just personally don't think that it was ready to be published and sent out to people. I think that maybe they should have sent out like a draft and got that kind of looked through before sending it out to people. But I did enjoy it. It's just that the mistakes that were in here did pull me out of the story a little bit. So I personally couldn't even give this a rating because I don't think it's ready yet. But maybe one day they will sort out those problems with the book, and then perhaps I'll reread it after that and then I can give you an actual review. And then the next book that I read is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. I am so glad that I read this. It is a beautiful story. I'm kind of disappointed that I never read it before, but there will be a review of this up soon. So once that's up, I can leave the link down below as well for you to check it out, but it's not out yet. But yeah, I totally get why this is a children's classic and why people love it so much. And this did get a 5-star rating from me. Next up, I read The Tales of Beedle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. Just to put in here very quickly, I do not support the author. This was actually borrowed through the Kindle Unlimited library, so I pay for Kindle Unlimited now. And the book was on there and I did want to read it. I am a really big Harry Potter fan, so it was a book that I was really interested in. And basically, if you've read the original Harry Potter series or seen the films at all, The Tales of Beedle the Bard is kind of like a children's collection of stories similar to the Grimm's Brothers, but set in the magical world of Harry Potter. So it's basically written for young witches and wizards for their parents to read to them. And it was really interesting to read. I didn't realise that it had footnotes written by Albus Dumbledore and also by J.K. Rowling herself. So I found it really interesting and I did genuinely enjoy it very much. Another book that I read on the Kindle this month was The New Crown by M.B. Castle. This again was sent to me by the author very kindly. This was actually an advanced reader copy, so an ARC. And I was really interested in it because it sounded quite similar to A Song of Ice and Fire, which is the series that I've been reading recently by George R.R. Martin. I'm sure you've all heard of that or seen the series of Game of Thrones. But basically, this is a fantasy novel. It's a really big one. I didn't realise how huge it was. And we're following multiple different characters, multiple different perspectives as well, of people that live in this fantasy world. There are maps and everything as well. And there's loads of different kings and queens and factions and things like that. And not only are they warring against each other, there is also a mystical force called the Eternals. And they have been kind of kept in a prison of sorts. It's more like a magical prison than a physical one. But they have just been released. That happens at the start of the book, and then you're following everything that happens after that. The character development is really wonderful. I really enjoyed it a lot. I will leave the link to that book down below so you can go in, either pre-order it or wait for it to be released. It's coming out on the 1st of August, I believe, so you haven't got very long to wait. And I definitely recommend checking it out if you are a fan of the Lord of the Rings series or the A Song of Ice and Fire series. I feel like you'll really enjoy it. And this novel ended up as a 4-star for me. I found it really interesting and a lot of fun to read. The next book I read was Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. I wanted to read this after reading My Dark Vanessa. Again, there's a review for that book. I'll leave that link down below, and I think I'm going to do a comparison to Lolita video as well, so let me know if you'd be interested in that. But basically it's following the perspective of a paedophile. So this man that we are following, who is called Humbert, he falls very deeply and quickly in love with a young teenage girl called Lolita, and it's basically following him and what he does in able to be close to this girl. And it is deeply disturbing, really disgusting. But after reading My Dark Vanessa, I realised how graphic that book was compared to Lolita. There's hardly any graphic kind of information in there. There's nothing that's really being told to you in that way. But in ways that makes it worse because your mind wanders away with what is happening to this poor young girl. Yeah, I won't get into it too deeply, but if you did enjoy My Dark Vanessa and you haven't read Lolita before, I definitely recommend checking it out because it's something that's referenced a lot in that book. But I will say it wasn't my favourite book of all time. I did at points get a little bit bored of it. It felt like it wasn't really going anywhere. Not that I wanted it to go anywhere because of the subject matter, but it was quite a short book and it ended up being a 3-star read for me. And then the last book that I'm going to finish this month, I haven't quite finished it yet, but I know I'm going to finish it either today or tomorrow. That is A Storm of Swords, the first book, which is Steel and Snow, by George R.R. Martin. So this is the 3rd book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. I'm devouring this. It is maybe one of the best books that I have read. I think it's amazing and so far the one that I'm enjoying the most out of the series. But I'm excited to start part 2 of this. But you'll see me talk about that a little bit more in the review that I do for this. I'm going to continue with the A Song of Ice and Fire review series, so there is a playlist on my channel. The first video that I did for the first book is spoiler free, but as it goes on, obviously I have to talk about the events that happen in the book before. So there are spoilers in there, but there'll always be a section you can watch where there aren't. So yeah, I do think this is going to be another 5-star read for me. So I had a really fantastic month for reading. Not only did I read a lot of books, I read a lot of really excellent books, and I'm so happy with what I got to this month. So let me know down below what you've been reading this month, how many books you read, if there are any that really stood out to you as something that you loved, any that you really didn't like. But that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!